Welcome, everyone. Tonight is a very special night. It is the night we've been waiting for. It's Together in Happiness's webinar, Loving Ourselves and Our Partner, Self and Couple Awareness. I'm Susan Barth. I'm the founder of Together in Happiness B'Yahad B'Osher, which is a nonprofit. And I am delighted to invite you today to the webinar, which is the introduction to the first of what will be a series of webinars that focus on the Enneagram Personality test, and we have a special presenter, Dr. Miriam Adahan. Before I introduce Dr. Adahan, I just want to say a few words about Together in Happiness for those of you that are not familiar with us. We are a resource center promoting awareness, recognition, and advocacy of the critical importance of marriage education and marriage enrichment. And it is essentially, we focus on Jewish couples of all different stages, and especially in Israel and English-speaking countries. And I want to just tell you a little bit about marriage education for those that are not familiar. It can be defined in two ways. It provides the skills that research is associated with healthy and happy couples, and it's not therapy, and it's generally taught with a curriculum by a trained facilitator, using a manual and working in groups. And essentially, there are many different flavors, but the basics are that you focus on communication skills, conflict resolution, problem solving, understanding the partner's needs, expectations, and how to manage arguments without fighting. And the essential core is that everyone can benefit from marriage education enrichment. If you're a couple, if you're a single, if you're in different organizations. Why? Because it touches on every facet of your life. And that's why if you're engaged. So that's why we invite you to really dream along with us. And but the core is the couple. And what's important for the couple is the fact that in marriage education, you learn how to manage expectations, that you can learn danger signs that derail from the union that you want. It focuses on strengthening the bonds between couples, but most of all is teaching you what might be considered 3 Bs about behaviors and the benefits, and also to know the transitions. So you have the skills. So every couple can end up feeling like they have the skills to, and the confidence that they can traverse any issue that comes along because they've got the tools. But remember that a couple is part of a family unit, and the family unit is so critical, and especially these days when families are disintegrating through unfortunately the war and so much stress. But that's why in the nuclear part of the family is about the personality. It's kind of like the seeds of our personalities at childhood, but marriage education incorporates teaching about personality styles. That's why we wanted this webinar to focus just on personality. And that's why we have been blessed to have the participation of Dr. Adahan. And Dr. Adahan, I could be her spokesperson in terms of books that I've read. She's been teaching and counseling people for the past 60 years. She's written numerous books about how to understand people. And a lot of her private work is helping people overcome abuse. And in fact, that she knows it only too well from having been a survivor of domestic abuse. And that's what's given her the impetus to actually help couples with getting self-awareness and independence. And so that without further ado, I'm going to sit back and learn a few things. So thank you, Miriam.
Thank you. Wonderful. Good for you. I really appreciate, Susan. I appreciate all of you who have come to listen. Please give yourselves a pat on the back, on the shoulders. That's one of the first things I teach people when it comes to healthy relationships. Is first of all, have a healthy relationship with yourself. And that means you have to, we use the word endorsement. That's an old recovery term from the recovery movement and the 12-step movement, to just be proud of yourselves for being here, for choosing to raise your awareness. Because not too many people are interested in becoming more aware of who they are, who the people in their families are. And that's what we're here for. People want to be seen. They want to be cherished. That's what love is. to be seen, valued, cherished, to have somebody take an interest in you, to want to get to know you. So first of all, we're going to get to know ourselves, know what our own individual needs, values, interests, goals are, and then be able to appreciate other people's needs, values, and goals, because it's different for every person. Every single person. It's one of the miracles of Hashem is that every single person is different. There are no two people the same. And so I want to mention, even though I'm going to be talking about general personality types, nobody can be boxed into one little box. Everybody is different. Every human being is a whole world. But there are general trends and interests that will help us understand what we can get and what we can't in a relationship. We can't get all of our needs satisfied. Let's say you have somebody who is a type number 1, very orderly and organized and everything that's placed. Well, that type of person might not be great at a picnic where you want somebody who's very spontaneous, a type number 7. And then if you have a type number 7 that's very spontaneous and fun-loving and loves to travel, then that person might not be able to do something that somebody else can do very well. So everybody has their talents and their interests that have to be respected, as well as our limitations. Okay. So I first started this whole thing. Somebody got me interested in the Myers-Briggs system. This is my book called Appreciate People. It's the Myers-Briggs system. And that was a good way to start me off. It's actually easier than the Enneagram because everybody knows that there's introverts and extroverts. And then there are people who are just academic and, you know, not down to earth types. Or that there are very strongly feeling types and thinking types. That was easier. And then after that, I got interested in the Enneagram, which is a lot deeper. And this is really amazing. Both of them changed my life. I was brought up by in a family system that didn't like my personality. Okay. So because I'm just the type of person I am, very sensitive and very interested in people, highly sensitive and highly emotional. So I wasn't well liked because I didn't have the personality that was wanted by my parents. May their memories be blessed. Okay. So I got very involved later on in trying to understand who I am, who they were, why I couldn't satisfy them, why I was the type that got bullied a lot in school and wherever I was. So I wanted to, I have a deep desire to understand human beings and what motivates them, what's going on. And now with the world, with the craziness in the world, not just this explosion of interest in narcissism and who these people are, and the abusers and the manipulators and the protesters and the anti-Semites and who they are. Okay. So I have this deep interest, and that's a type number 4. That's my interest. If you're not a type number 4, it might not interest you and you might not want to be here. But the fact that you signed in means you have to have some 4 in your personality. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Okay. But I'm surrounded by people who are not type number 4s and they're not interested in this. And I have to make peace with that. You're going to have to make peace with what people can give you, what their talents are. Okay, as long as they're not abusive or manipulative, we can learn to get along with anybody. And we can learn to appreciate people as they are. Okay, as the Gottman Institute, the doctors Gottman have a marriage institute. And they have them all over the world, these marriage institutes, and they say, you can really get along with people as long as they're not scornful and abusive and manipulative or deranged, okay? So if they're not in that category, fine, we're going to learn how to get along with them. What we're going to do with the people that are in that other category, the manipulative, abusive types, well, we're going to get into that when we discuss the 9 personality types of the Enneagram. Okay, maybe you can get it in your bookstore or on Amazon. And we're going to, within each of the 9, there's a very healthy range of people who they just want to bring joy and love and stability and gratitude. It's a God-centered area. And then you have the middle types. These are the people that are struggling, the intermediates. And then in each type, there is a low-level destructive area. And knowing your personality type will help you stay up at the healthy range and avoid going down into the destructive abyss, which we will experience at times depending on our personality type. Okay, so these 9, I don't want to box anybody in. My personality, my personal experience of the personality types is that understanding myself and who I am freed me from the compulsion to try to get other people to understand me who couldn't understand, and to just learn to accept people as they are, which will improve any relationship with anybody that's basically normal and not abusive. So when you learn to appreciate other people as they are, and you're not trying to change them, and you're curious about what makes them tick and what their goals and ambitions are, and you're here to encourage them. The word nisuim, marriage, comes from the word to raise up. We marry to raise each other up, to help people fulfill their dreams, to fulfill their potential, not to manipulate and try to control them and try to harm them. So that's really the idea of nisuim, of a marriage, of any relationship. It's all what we want to do with our children. You get along with children much better if you understand who they are and what's motivating them. As a type number 4, deeply sensitive and interested in people, I don't have any kids like that. Okay, so I had to understand who they were, what their goals and motivations were. Fine, and then I will help them reach their potential. It's not what I'm interested in, but I will learn about their lives because I'm interested and I love them. And if somebody loves you, they're interested in you. And if you love somebody, you're interested in them and you want to help them reach their potential. So I want to just mention I'm going to be talking about 9 types. And within the 9 types, I'll be talking about the healthy, intermediate, and destructive level. And I don't mean to box anybody in. I want to free you. I have a passion to free people so they don't get locked in. And that's what the Enneagram did for me. So for example, as a 4, I was very emotional. I feel things very deeply and intensely. And I have to learn around people who are not so deeply feeling or who don't even care about feelings. And it's not a value to share their feelings. That's my value. My value is to share feelings, to dissect my feelings, to talk about them, to process them with people. That's my value. It's not the value of people who, from other personality types, the other 8, are not so interested. That's okay. I accept that. Now, what's also interesting and wonderful about the Enneagram is that for each type, there's a tikkun, there's a a way to stay up at the upper level of your personality type and not go down into the destructive level. Okay, so like for me, the destructive level of being so deeply feeling is, as a child, I was very melancholic and often depressed. And there's a word called philophobia. It's the fear of not being loved. And fours suffer from that. Philophobia. Everybody has their phobia. Everybody has their interest. Now, I would never in a million years have thought that the way to stay up and not get swallowed up by my own emotions was to work on my tikkun, which is to work. My tikkun is type number 1, to work on self-discipline and organization and order and structure. I never would have thought of that. I went to therapists who encouraged me to feel more and express my feelings more. That wasn't the right thing for me. It was the wrong thing. So if you don't know who you are, that's one of the things that happen. You might go to a therapist who encourages you to do the exact opposite of what you need to be doing. The other thing is that I went to law school. I went to medical school. Completely wrong for me. You waste time doing what you really don't have an interest in and what you're not going to be good at, maybe to please your parents or to please society. Okay, so those are the two most important things to remember, that you need to know who you are so you don't waste time trying to live up to other people's expectations and do what would please them, which is going to be totally opposite to your own personality. What was I doing in medical school? I'm not into bodies. I'm into souls and spirits and understanding people and psyches. And okay, that's what my interest is. I'm into inspiration. I don't need to be in an operating room. That's not where I'm going to shine. Okay, I have to shine in my world. And if you don't know who you are, I mean, with my kids, I told them very early in life about people being so different. I said, okay, let's say we're going to the home of a type number 1. So if you use the toilet paper, make sure that you put the toilet paper back exactly where it was in the same place after you use it. Okay. And you ask permission. And if they want you to take your shoes off when you come in, you take your shoes off. And you be very aware that things are in their place. Okay, so they got used to realizing that everybody's so different and with different needs and goals. And you want to respect this. Okay, so that's one of the things. It will help you to respect yourself and other people. It will keep you, hopefully, from wasting your time doing things that is not in your realm. Not everybody's academic. Type number 5, for instance, is a very academic type. What if you're not academic? I'm also a handwriting analyst, and so I can see some people that's not where their energy is going. And you can see that, like, God puts energies into people. God gives people personalities. And that's where they're going to be happy doing that. So should we just give an overview of the types? Type number 1, you want to put up a thing on the Enneagram, what it looks like? This is just wonderful. I can't tell you how freeing this was for me. It just allowed me to love myself and love the people around me. So here we have the type, we're gonna, in the Enneagram, they have like a threesome. 2, 3, 4 is the feeling triad. Number 2 is the helper, the giver, mentor. They're always out there giving to people, especially on a physical level. Food, they're going to be the first ones making sandwiches for the soldiers, the first one going to the hospital, nurses, anybody into giving, especially on the physical level. Type number 3 is the achiever, the performer. Extremely achievement oriented. I'll talk to a type number 3 and they will use the word successful about 5 times within the first 3 minutes of talking to me. Oh, this child is successful and that child is successful and I did this and I did that. And, like I had a lady get into my car once and she said, you don't know who's in your car. I said, well, who tell me who you are. Well, my husband is a Rosh Hashiva and my children, I have a son who's at this and a son who's at that, and they're all very successful. So I know I was talking to type number 3. Type number 4, me, very individualistic, very romantic, very independent. I cannot be controlled. If you try to control me, I will run the opposite direction. I have to have my own path in life. And even if everybody is against me, I'll follow my path. Very romantic, very, very into relationships and intense, deep, the DMI, the deep, meaningful interactions with people. Nobody else is really as interested. Okay. I have a lot of 3s, for instance, who marry 9s. 9s make peace. They are not achievement oriented. Often they have no ambition. 3s are ambitious, go to that. Now, can you imagine what a marriage is like between a 3 and a 9? And the 9s are just making peace with what is. And they're not ambitious. And she says, what are we doing today? And what are your plans? And what are your goals? And write down those 10 goals. And let me help you. And the 9 is going, could you just get off my back? Okay. And then there's the 5, the investigator, the observer, the thinker. These are the Talmidei Chachamim. They just want to sit and learn and be away from the world, just learning and getting more facts, and they can have their nose in a Gemara for 18 hours a day, 20 hours a day, sleep 15 minutes at a time, learn. Okay. They're brilliant. They're just brilliant people. And then there's type number 6. Okay. This is the loyalist. This is the person, the investigator, the journalist, the person who wants to be totally devoted and loyal to a cause. They're out there protesting. It's 100 degrees and they're out there. Okay. And they have a Rebbe or a teacher or a parent or somebody that they just worship, or they are that person that they want other people to, we're a club, we're an organization. 7 is the enthusiastic person who is very connected to the physical world. These are often people in alternative medicine, in aromatherapy and massage therapy and anything having to do with the body. They love bodies. They love touching bodies. They love dancing. They love being bodies. They feel that they're in their bodies. By the way, number 1 is the one that's sort of anti-body. They're anti-sensual. Now, let's say the 1 marries a 7. The anti-sensual marries the very sensual. You can imagine what happens there. Okay. I'm laughing because Hashem often does this. Like he'll make the very rigid, organized, everything in order type number 1, perfectionistic, marry the person who's a little messy and doesn't know where anything is. And okay, Hashem has a great sense of humor. So the 7 is out there, they're dancing, they're into sports, they're into travel, they're into trying everything. There's a new restaurant, the 7. When can we go to the new restaurant? When can we travel? When's our next trip? Okay. So let's say the me type number 4, that I need my home and my sensitive little corner of the world where I can meditate. If somebody would said, when is our next trip? I said, well, we had a trip last year. That's enough for the next 5 years. But the 7 is trips and going and going. I mean, you talk to them and they'll say, I say, what is your goal? Well, I want to go all over the world. I want to try everything. I want to meet new people. I want to try new restaurants. I want to be into sports. I want to whatever. The 8 is the boss. Now you can see that this is the type that needs to control. They need to be at the top. They need to control masses of people. Now, if they're positive, it's very protective. They're the soldiers that are out there leading their troops. Very fearless. Don't get emotional around an 8. They will not appreciate that. That will look at that as a weakness. Now imagine an 8 married to a 4, which is all about emotion. And then there's the 9, the peacemaker. These are great diplomats. They'll go meet with anybody to make peace, to harmonize. They can reconcile. These are the couples counselors that will give everybody hope. Everything can be changed. Everybody can reconcile. Everybody can make peace. And then there's the 1, very, very rule-oriented. Okay. If they're from, they will take the more stringent approach to anything, all the law. They keep the laws very, very specifically. And they're very perfectionist about there, very legalistic. These are your judges and your reformers. Now, if you're married to a reformer who's trying to reform you, or you're trying to reform somebody who doesn't want to be reformed and they're resistant. So this is why, if you don't understand what you're dealing with, it can lead to huge conflict. If you don't accept who you are and you're trying to please somebody else, you'll be conflicted within yourself. Now, first of all, you have to learn to love you. You have to love who you are. Now, how are you going to love who you are? Nobody teaches this in school. I would love to teach this from first grade to help kids understand who they are. Like, is this kid going to be into sports? Is this going to be into science? Is this kid more introverted and just wants to stay alone? Okay. So this whole idea is to help you love and accept yourself, to know what you're going to be good at, who you're going to be good with. Now, the Sforno says, a lot of people say, well, don't opposites attract? They attract, and then they make each other so nervous, and then they irritate each other. The Sforno says, marry somebody similar as possible, a best friend type, and then you have a much greater possibility of being successful in your marriage. The more different you are, the harder it's going to be. Now,
so Miriam, we have a couple of questions. So
yes.
You've partially touched on the one,
Yes.
in terms of marrying. So would you say that a 3 should marry a 3, or that a 3 should marry another number? And also, is it good that we're putting ourselves into boxes? Can it not sometimes do more damage than actually benefit?
Absolutely. It can be an excuse to not do anything. I don't want to give anybody an excuse. Okay. Say, well, I'm a perfectionist, so I'm highly critical, and that's just who I am. Anybody who walks in is going to get criticized. No. It should help free you. And if you know that you're a perfectionist, it means that you have a tendency to be abusive towards yourself and others, because perfectionism is a form of abuse. It's not possible to achieve it. So you have to know, first of all, yes, you should marry somebody on a similar wavelength. It really works better. According to, there's a Gomorrah that says that there's relationships that are like a river. They're just two rivers. They don't have anything in common. They barely talk. They have nothing to say to each other. And they're just like two rivers. This is the Gomorrah. And then you have people that have like this, it's what's called the kum relationship, where you use each other. Like I'll use my hot water heater because I need it, that the kum to heat the water. So it's a useful relationship where I use you. I need you to go make money. I need you to, so that I can have kids. I need you to fix my car. I need you, by the way, don't ask a type number 5 to fix your car. Okay, so you have to know what to do, but you need each other for the laundry, for the money, for the looking good, for the, so that you don't, I don't know, whatever you need people for. But the kum, the pot relationship is more of an objectification. The other person is more of an object to you. And then, according to the Gomorrah, there's a very few, 5 to 7% statistically, have what's called the bird relationship, the best friend relationship, where you understand and connect at a very deep level and two become one. But that's rare. Probably the rarest thing in the world is that deep, intense love where you're so bonded and connected that you're really like one. But that's rare. So a
Miriam,
lot
we
of
have
my,
another question, which I think is very appropriate here. What happens if we are a specific number and our partner or husband is another number? And one of the examples used here was that if they're looking for a more deeper bond and more intellectual discussion, and their husband they feel is not capable of doing that. So the question here was, this person said that their psychologist suggested that either both of them or just the husband seek therapy, although the husband's hesitant. So what do you advise in this kind of format if, we're wanting things from our partner that they maybe are not capable of giving? Do we have the right to expect different things from them? Or is it more us that we need to maybe look for our needs? And if you can just go into that.
choose B.
Okay, if you can just elaborate.
Okay, so type number 4 has the deepest level of psychological insight into people. You will see these kids when they're 2, 3, 4 years old, they understand people. They have extreme empathy. They're extremely deep and they like to talk about their feelings and express their feelings. And they'll be keeping journals when they're 4 or 5 years old, the Anne Franks. Okay, very, very deep Elie Wiesel 4. That's the deepest level of psychological insight. Now, actually, our goal is to develop a little bit of everything here. That should be our goal, is to be able to dance around and develop all of these things. But you have to know what your core is and who you are. Type number 5 is the deepest intellectually, academically. I'm not a 5. I'm a 4, but I have what's called a 5 wing. I like to analyze people and I do handwriting analysis and analyze, but I don't have that 5 Gomorrah brilliance. If you can't, this is the biggest Yetzer Hara, the biggest fault among human beings is the desire to change their partners and get what they can't get. Stop it. I try to get people to stop it. You have to have radical acceptance. This is what I can get. This is what I can't get. There's a famous French philosopher who said, you always marry the wrong person. Because let's say you get a 5 that's very intellectual, brilliant intellectual, but he doesn't have that 4 component of the deep feeling. Or doesn't have the 7, let's go, let's take a trip, let's just do something spontaneous. So every time you get something, even the word decide comes from the word die. Something's going to die. Let's say you get somebody very mesudar, very orderly and organized, the type number 1. Well, then you're not going to get that fun-loving type. So you have to use what is called radical acceptance. I'm not going to get it all. Nobody's going to get it all. Nobody. We're all going to be disappointed in some way. And we have to learn to accept, this is what Hashem gave me, this is what I'm married to, as long as the person isn't abusive, manipulative, deceptive, stonewalling, scornful, whatever. Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't live with Korach. That was not feasible. Until Moshe Rabbeinu, oh, well, you should like this man. No, it didn't work. And Zipporah had to accept that Moshe Rabbeinu needed to separate from her because he was with Hashem. Okay, so we all have to make peace with Hashem. It's the hardest thing to do, but it's the essence, it's what brings us inner peace. And going to therapy, I'm very, very, very against therapists who say, anybody can be anything. Anybody can develop anything. We can change everything. No, that's an inept therapist who is lying to you and giving you what I call hope dope. It's not going to happen. And we have to stop this fairy tale business of, oh, well, I'll just send him to therapy. Not going to happen. So I practice what I call my being in my Dayenu mode. You know, but there's this weird song that we sing on Pesach, Dayenu, Dayenu. If you brought us out of Mitzrayim and you didn't drown the Egyptians, and you brought us through the desert and you didn't give us the man, Dayenu, and you brought us to Har Sinai and you didn't give us the Torah, Dayenu, you know, nobody understands that song. So the way I understood it finally was that when I say to Hashem, Dayenu, whatever you have given me is exactly what I need at this moment in my life. These people, these faults, these vulnerabilities, this is my Dayenu, I accept it. Because that means I'm in attunement with you, then Hashem will lift you up. So with every person that walks into my office, that walks into my home, every family member, I am in a total Dayenu mode. I accept you, sometimes 0.0001%. I accept you as much as I can accept you. This is my Dayenu place. You are where you need to be. I am where I need to be at this present instant. And I will do my best to love and accept you and myself as we are. And even if it's just 1%, this is what I can do.
So Miriam, we have another question
Yes.
of how will you be going into in the next sessions, the 3 sessions, as Susan mentioned, this is part of a series. Will you be helping people understand what number they are? And can you
Right.
just mention a little bit about that?
Right. So
And
I'm
how we
gonna
can react once we know what number we are?
right. So that's the basis for everything is acceptance. We're going to be learning to accept ourselves, accept other people. I will also mention the destructive area. There's every type has a healthy area, a middle area, and a very destructive area that you have to stay away from. And those are the people who are, the terrorists and the narcissists and people with mental illness and OCs. What we're going to discuss all those 3 levels in each type. So you're going to learn to recognize it, stay away from it in yourself, because we all have these negative tendencies pulling us down, and how to stay up. So it's such a deep, I'll be doing it in 3 sessions, but it's just going to touch the tip of the iceberg. And if you're not a 4, you might not be interested. And if you want your spouse to listen, you say, wow, this is fascinating. We'll learn to understand each other and we'll learn to appreciate and tolerate and love each other. You know, I want to do I want to learn how to cook better. I want to learn how to do sushi. I'm into fashion. Threes are into fashion and cosmetics and, you know, what other things. They're not interested. And then you just have to radical acceptance. Okay, Dayenu, this is what Hashem is giving me. Not easy. But it's like a prayer all day long where you're working on acceptance and being in attunement and alignment with Hashem. So it'll give you inner peace. It will give you inner peace with others because they won't feel that pressure that you're trying to change them. Because people feel. Now listen, a tiny little fruit fly, even half the size of a fruit fly, will feel that I'm coming to kill it. So the minute you're trying to change somebody, if a fruit fly runs away from you, how much more a human being, because they will feel that you're trying to control them. Rav Eliyahu Dessler said, when demands begin, love departs. It's one of the deepest statements that was ever made about relationships. The minute you start making demands that other people change or agree or come over to you, whatever, demands begin, love departs. A fruit fly feels that you're coming after it and runs away.
Miriam, we have time for one more question. So are
Okay.
you saying that we should marry somebody of the same number, or can it also work if we marry somebody of the opposite number? It's probably a very general question.
Right. Only with a great deal of, a person has to be at a very high level to be able to just tolerate and appreciate something that's so far away from who they are. So yes, it marry somebody in the same general area is better, although there are some opposites that do work. Okay. Like the Talmud Chacham, who just wants to sit and learn and be left alone. That's a Talmud Chacham. And he often wants a wife who will take care of the mortgage and the kids and the cooking and the laundry and the entire physical world. Don't bother me. And if she's a one, she doesn't want to be bothered either. He doesn't bother her and she doesn't bother him. And they appreciate each other. They should show appreciation, but that's fine. They don't need DMIs. They don't need deep, intense conversations. And they just learn to accept each other. So some opposites do work and some opposites are disastrous.
Miriam,
Yes.
I want everyone to savor that point and think about how they can get energized from the 3 sessions that are following, because you have totally, I have to say, I've had Miriam's book for years and I could pore over it for years and still feel like I'm clueless. That's why it's a gift of these 3 sessions that we're have an unbelievable opportunity to learn from the master herself, and because she has spent years mastering the subject matter, which is why it's a golden opportunity. If you can reserve 3 dates for yourself, you'll do yourself such a gift and a favor. On Tuesday, the Tuesday triad, the only exception was the fact that the Tanis is coming in between for the 17th. But if you put on your calendar Tuesday the 16th, the 30th, and August the 6th, as a red letter time, sacrosanct, you will be doing such a gift. And our nonprofit is heavily subsidizing because we want you to participate, so that the cost is only if it's dollar currency, $27. If it's in Israeli currency, of 99 shekels for the couple for the series. And so that once you register, if you're not able to participate in one, don't worry, you'll get the recording. But you're going to find that this is the greatest gift. The truth of the matter is that it's open for business right now. So at the end, you can quickly go and sign up and bring your spouse, bring your friends, because this is a rare opportunity to really dive in and spend the time for yourself And also, again, the kinds of questions that have come up that have to do with, is this compatible with this compatible? The only way you're going to know is if you gain the knowledge and the tools of awareness. So take the moment now to sign up and join us. We're next week. It's only next week. And so that what you got tonight is just a taste of what you can get. I can tell you, it's a rare opportunity. And we invite you actually to look at our website also, because we've updated ourselves in terms of resources available. And so that we encourage you to take a peek at our new website and also to join our social media between the various Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. We're here for you. We started this nonprofit for you, to promote marriage education for you. And so therefore use us, because it's also, we want to hear what kinds of things you're interested in, but I can tell you for certain, personalities are critical. And when I was involved in the various stages of learning with couples, I can tell you it came right down to personalities. So here's our information, togetherandhappiness.com, and our Facebook, and Instagram. And so join us. We want to hear from you. But most of all, I want to see you next week.
Thank you,
So
Susan.
thank you all. Thank
Good
you
for
all for
you.
coming, and have a great evening, day, wherever you are. But most of all, Am Yisrael Chai, and thank you.